A true American hero, and one you'll never know. And this is going to be a tearjerker. I'm just telling you. So if you're not ready to have a tearjerker, don't watch this video. So in my discussion, I guess, or monologue on the evils of prohibition and how innocent, mostly black kids are being affected by the rampant crime in the inner cities and whatnot, a guy responded to me. It is an interesting take. But anyway, it's interesting. So I emailed back, said, "But you're successful. How come?" And we had a little bit of a dialogue, and he shared me a story I'm going to share with you. And I'm telling you, it's sad. There's no way around it. So here's a guy. He says he has a picture of him and his granddad, and I'll show you the picture right here. All right, so here's the granddad, and he asked me not to show his face or say their names, but that's the granddad. Obviously, you can't see him, but that's a World War II memorial. And he says, that's a picture of my granddad, World War II vet, honorable discharge. He passed away in 2008 at 94 years old. Him and my grandma used to tell me the horrendous stories of how they were treated by white people and while he was in the Army. However, they loved America. He capitalized that. They loved America. And he would place a flag outside of their house every Memorial Day, July 4th, and Veterans Day, and would go to all the American holiday parades in our city. Then, so I emailed them. I said, what did I say here? I told him, I said, "Man, your picture's making me cry." I said, "I'd like to learn more about it. Whatever. You don't have to feel comfortable if you don't want me to use your granddad's face, because you can use a picture, just don't use my face and don't mention our names." Yep. And he said he belonged to something. He retired in 1980 and made way more money retired than he did working due to Social Security and retirement. Plus, their house was paid off. 1980s when he quit smoking cold turkey and started our addiction to sweets. It's funny because back then, don't forget World War II, I think cigarettes were part of it. I don't know if was it before C-Rats? I can't remember. We had MREs. I can't remember C-Rats or K-Rats, something like that, but they had cigarettes in there a lot of times. So I'm sure the government hooked him on smoking. If you go to the World War II Memorial and type in this guy's name and click on his name, you'll see his certificate. I took him to see his name at the memorial, and that was the first time I had seen him cry. I also found out that he was scared of heights. We went up to Washington Monument, and he wouldn't look out the windows. What made me want to join the Navy was this guy, because remember, his granddad raised him, his grandparents. Doesn't say what happened to his parents, but his grandparents raised him. What made me want to join the Navy was my granddad. I never understood why he would display the flag and talk highly of America after he was treated like he was until I joined the Navy in 1988 and had a chance to serve at the Persian Gulf War in 1991 during the Gulf War. So this guy is literally my age. I joined the Army in 88. This guy joined the Navy in 88. I can almost guarantee he graduated high school the same time I did. I try not to think of some of the stories he used to tell me because they're so degrading for such a great man to go through, and yet he just told them so nonchalant. And he's answering my question now. Why did I succeed? Because what was that? I succeeded because I was raised by a World War II vet and my grandma. They taught me how to sacrifice, to be frugal, to save money, work hard, have a good attitude at work, even though you may be having a bad day. Learn all I can, pray, take care of yours, and don't depend on anyone for nothing. My family now kind of admires me like my grandfather, but the key word is kind of. I'm no way close. That generation was truly the greatest. There's another take on his. Well, let's just put he doesn't like Trumpster, but there are some things about the Trumpster he likes, which is his take on immigration. I'm just telling you right now. The Trumpster, he's smarter than a lot of people think because he knows in terms of politics, if he can get a certain group of people to vote just a little bit more than they have, it's over for the opposition. Anyway, that it pains me because America is such a friggin' great country. It's kind of like it pains me with the church because the church is such a great. The America is great, but its people can be horrible. No different than the church. The church is great. The Christian church is wonderful because the person who we get on our knees to pray to, who rose from the dead, who was nailed to the cross. And by the way, Jesus certainly wasn't some white blonde hair guy. Let's just admit that right now. I mean, there's no white blonde guys in the Middle East I can see. I mean, there might be a few. Well, Jesus. And this is not to say I'm ashamed to be white or anything like that. Not at all. I got no pride or no shame whatsoever. I'm proud to be an American. That's all I'm proud to be. Because America is good. Its people can be bad. And the sad thing is a guy like this, I shared the story a while ago. I can't remember how long it goes, but my dad, I don't think, well, I can't remember. I'll share it again. So my dad was in Kansas City. He was hitchhiking across country. I don't know what he was doing, but I think this was before he met my mom, but he was hitchhiking across country. I think he graduated high school. He was going to school in Iowa. So he graduated in Los Angeles in high school, and I think he was going to school in Iowa. He was hitchhiking across country, and I think he dropped out after like 6 months or something like that. I don't know the whole story. But he said he was sitting in a diner in Kansas City. My dad's a 18-year-old punk kid, hippie, and is a good-looking black guy, a formidable. But that's not the word I'm looking at. Not sophisticated, but just a good-looking black guy came in. What's the word I'm looking for? Not a guy down on his luck. I don't know how to. I'm dropping the word what he had called him. But a guy came in, and the people in the diner were just yelling at this guy, dropping, what they're saying. And my dad was stunned because the same people were screaming at this guy, then turned around and waited on him like he was a cat's meow. And he said that changed his life. He said, I couldn't believe it. He said, I'd never seen that. He was from California. And I'm sure there's some racism in California, but and where he was from was mostly Spanish and whites. But he said, I'd never seen that. I was in Kansas City. It wasn't like Alabama. And it was nuts. And he goes, I just changed him. Now, I'll never forget my mom telling a story when they lived in San Francisco in the late 60s. And some of this you don't know. You don't know if it's Elizabeth Warren type stories. You don't know. But it's just passed down from generation from my mom to me. So I had no reason to challenge it. But she said she went down to San Francisco where the Black Panthers were handing out food to poor people. They're poor, they're people. And she goes, what can I do to help? And the Black Panther said, don't help us. We got it. You go tell your own people to stop being so damn racist. And my mom shared that with me. And I always thought that was funny because it's like, we got our own. We don't need you to help us. We need you to help you. Your people are the racist ones. We're not. And I always kind of chuckled at that because I said it's true, man. If we can help other people who are in need, but when you're the one who got the problems, you're the ones who need to be helped, not them. Anyway, so that's how I was raised, is to just respect other people of all sorts and everything. But when I went in the Army, and I remember coming out. I remember we did this. We do these funeral details around upstate New York and whatnot. And I just remember one time this guy, he was a World War II vet. He wasn't black, I don't think, but there's a bunch of black guys there, black folks. And I can't remember. I just remember I was just thinking, these guys, like this guy, I said, how they're so friggin' patriotic, and yet we treat him so shamefully. It's nuts. It's insane. And I was reading about Jesse Owens. You know Hitler actually shook Jesse Owens' hand? Hitler did. You know who didn't? FDR. I mean, I just think about that. Think about that. Now, this is in 1936. I mean, Hitler is still doing bad things, but it's certainly before we knew how bad he was going to be. But Jesse Owens said, in like his memoirs, Jesse Owens went. There's a guy in Germany who helped. I can't remember the guy's name, but it's just you can read Jesse Owens' memoirs or read. Anyway, this guy's white guy in Germany who Jesse Owens beat handily in the long jump, and the guy basically walked hand in hand with Jesse Owens around the track while Hitler was bearing down, and not what's the guy's name? The freaking not Mengele, the other guy. Is it Hitler, Mengele? I forgot the other guy's name, but anyway. And they're bearing down on him. I said, man, talk about courage, man. You know what I'm saying? And anyway, of course, that guy was killed in World War II. But Jesse Owens was the best man at that guy's son's wedding. Flew to Germany to be the best man at that guy's son's wedding. And Jesse Owens said, Hitler gave me more respect than my own president did. It's crazy. I mean, it's easy to look at hindsight. It's easy. But this, I talk about it quite a bit here, is that when it comes to discrimination, I don't want to hear anything about people of color and all that stuff. It's only the blacks. No one else. I don't want to hear it. I frankly am not sympathetic at all to other people saying I'm discriminated against. I'm not, but I'm completely sympathetic to American blacks and American Indians, to be perfectly honest with you. But you came here on your own accord. These people didn't come here. But when they did come here, they friggin' fought for the country, even though they were gonna be kicked in the rear by losers like my dad. Now my dad didn't do it, but I mean, just like an 18-year-old hippie had more priority than an honorable, probably World War II vet. It's crazy. I can't think of anything more shameful. But then I look at the church and I say the people of the church are fallible. There's none non-fallible. Not even this guy. We're all fallible. The only one that was Jesus. And he wasn't a race. He was just him. And I think it's probably not a bad idea to once in a while just to sit back and say, hey, how lucky you are if you're in this United States. Hey, first and foremost, you are blessed for some ungod. I don't know why. But with lots of blessing come lots of responsibility. And the one thing we got to do is find a way to make it right with the people like this man. I mean, that's a man's man right there. Ew, man, I can't help but getting teary-eyed thinking about this guy coming back from war and be treated so poorly. But it's no different than the Christian church treating others, Jesus lovers, so poorly too. I mean, it's history. It's human beings. I don't know how you make it right. This guy was giving me some ideas. I don't know. It was funny what he was. It's just kind of funny what he was saying. About he wasn't really saying it like this, but like a Marshall Plan. Because I completely agree with the sentiments that American blacks have been, without question, they started way back here. And they have some video on YouTube that shows like whites coming way up in front and blacks being held back and stuff. That kind of bothered me because that's pitting whites versus blacks. But I think we got to admit the facts are, even if you're a poor white boy from Maine, with no money, you still had a head start over this guy, not the granddad obviously, but the granddad's grandson who he raised. Because my grandpa was in the Navy as Lockheed Martin. He left. He got the privileges of being a white American. This guy's grandpa did not. And so because that inherently, when my grandpa died, he had more, I guarantee, net worth than this guy did. I don't know that for sure, but it's just the nature of, you do have a leg up. You do. And it's because these other people, not that you were given privileges, but they were kept back. I've always thought about that a lot, actually, because I'm not one of these guys that says, don't talk about reparations. I don't know how you do it. I have a sneaky feeling how I would do it, Frank. I'd say, and like this guy was saying, not Jamaicans, not black Africans, just black Americans who were born and raised descendants of slaves. I think, some way you just say, we're going to somehow do something, a Marshall Plan for that group of people. But see, the problem is I'm not sure. I don't know. Would it fall on deaf ears? Would it be used? I don't know. I don't know what you'd do. But I've always wondered about that. Like, we got a bunch of rich people in the United States, a bunch of rich people, a bunch of Bill Gates, a bunch of Warren Buffetts, a bunch of people like that. And we have a group who have benefited, not from their white privilege, but from the privilege of being in America. That's what they benefited from. And we have a bunch of people who were held back, who committed their lives to this country, this great, great country that we can all agree is wonderful. But we've failed many of its own people to some degree. You can't tax the freaking poor white people. That's all that's going to do is bring animosity. I don't know what you do. But I hear stories like this, and I think about my own granddad, who's a wonderful man, captain of the Navy. His brother bombed some Japanese battleship, but Carl Deichmann and my grandpa's Vincent Deichmann. My grandpa test flew with Chuck Yeager or John Glenn, one of those two guys. I always get him confused. I think it's John Glenn. He was on the same test pilot unit or whatever it was with John Glenn. His brother took out one of the Japanese battleships, and he had a story on that. It's freaking insane when you read that story. You're like, whoa, it's crazy. And he's literally going to look him up in Wikipedia, Carl Deichmann. And this guy, but they fought in the same war as this guy did. But when they got out, they got to go work at Lockheed Martin and whatever, Boeing, I don't know. Fly for commercial airlines and whatnot, save, raise their children, go to Catholic schools, just living a nice, good life. And this he couldn't do the same. And then on top of it, he took his own grandson in to raise him. You can't get any more honorable than that. So I don't know what to do because you don't want to benefit people who don't quote unquote deserve. But I mean, how do you make that choice? I don't know. I don't know how you do it, but I think there's got to be some kind of thought put into how do you make good of this guy's sacrifice. And obviously, this guy since passed on. But there is a legacy there, man. It's bad. And I'm not shameful. I'm ashamed of the country allowing that to happen. I'm not ashamed, like, oh my goodness, I'm white. Who's that stupid lady, Roseanne Arquette? Like, I'm so ashamed to discuss me white. Just stop. Just stop. 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 It's embarrassing. And but I'm even more ashamed by people come here on their own accord saying, I'm a people of color. Treat me like you treat like the blacks. No, you don't you don't. That infuriates me when I hear that. To some degree, I think the gays have more of a case to be made than, some guy that came from, I don't know, whatever, a POC that came on his own accord. But gays at least could hide it. As much as that's wrong, at least at the end of the day, if you're a gay, you could go into a bar and not, I don't know, act gay or whatever. A black guy couldn't do that. It's witnessed by my dad's story with a black guy going into that diner. But I mean, once you're found out gay, he'll have no fury. That's for sure. So I think gays have actually a leg up on that. I think it was blacks, American Indians, and probably gays who've got the worst brunt of it. Everyone else, no, forget that. You came here, you're gonna have to work around. There is no discrimination against you today, none whatsoever. Oh yes, there's not. Is there discrimination against blacks? To some degree, I think so. Some of it I do, but it's not the same as it was for this gentleman here. But I think there is some, absolutely. I don't know how you erase it, frankly. I don't know what you can do. I just, as a white guy, I sit here and I think, man, we're all human beings, man. The Lord died for us each, but that doesn't mean you don't try to make right the bad things that happen. The priests in the Catholic Church, that doesn't mean God's bad or Jesus is bad or the church is bad. It just means those guys are friggin' fools. How many, we're paying, my own money, we're paying these people who are victimized by these, we can make a case why there's so many priests going that route. I think something is blindingly obvious, which I'll stay for another day, but that doesn't make the church bad. It certainly doesn't make Jesus bad. But it does turn people away from the church, turn people away from the great country because of the actions of fellow human beings that did people wrong. And you got to make it right. And, the Catholic Church, unfortunately, is having to do that by lawsuits. But, you got to make it right. And money's not going to solve it. Money's not going to bring this guy back. But like I told this man, I said, man, the nice thing is we know when it came to the front of the line, I guarantee his granddad was put in the front in the St. Peter bell. St. Peter opened the pearly gates, and God said, God greeted him with open arms. Well done, my good and faithful servant. Because if there's ever a servant, it would be that guy right there. He served. If there's ever a guy that did what the Lord told him to do, I put you in their place for a reason. Smile and move on. And you're serving the word of the Lord. We don't know why, but I guarantee you that guy went, all right, I can sacrifice a little bit to be here. It doesn't make it right while we're here, but and I think too, just all the poor white guys who died in the Civil War. I hear all this stuff about white supremacy and it's freaking embarrassing. I don't know why it's got to all be racial focused, because there's tons, my friends, tons of white people that also sacrificed. I mean, hell, Charlton Heston marched with Martin Luther King. Do you know that? It's like trendy now to be a POC and to bash whites and all that. I hate that. I've always hated that crap. I hate it on either side. That's why I liked the Lakers when I was growing up, because the Celtics had all the white guys, the Lakers had all the black guys, and I've always been fond for the underdogs. I've always liked Vince Evans as a quarterback for the Bears, James Harris as a quarterback for the Rams in the 70s. Then they had obviously Doug Williams, Randall Cunningham. Always liked the black quarterbacks. And now I like the white receivers and the white running backs. There aren't that many. So I'm always fond of the underdogs. And I like to, that's racial. No, it's not. It's just I like the underdogs. Always have, always will. I always like the black Republicans, man. Lynn Swann ran as a black Republican We got a guy up in Michigan run for a black Republican too. I always like that. I always like the underdogs. I think it's good that people go against the grain. I'm fond of for sure. But there are some things, injustice that happen that I wish we had a way to make it right. I don't know how to do it. Anyway, I'd be open to suggestions, but man, just can you believe this guy is an honorable man, just a wonderful, wonderful human being. Breaks my heart, man. Mm. But I'm glad this guy shared this story with me because that's a hero. That's just as much a hero, if not more, than my own granddad and my own granddad's brother. I guess that makes I don't know what that makes, my great uncle or something like that. I'm not sure. Great great uncle. But they're all heroes. All right, we'll see you.